She texted me, "You're not my type anymore. I've evolved beyond you." I replied, "Congratulations." Months later, I watched her evolution collapse from the penthouse I bought after cutting her off. When you live with someone long enough, you start measuring time not by dates, but by their moods. I could tell what kind of day it would be from the way her coffee cup sat on the counter. If the handle faced left, she was in a rush. Right, she was calm. Centered, she was probably scrolling Instagram, looking at self-help reels about alignment and vibrational energy. That morning, the cup was centered. Her name's Maya, 31. We'd been together for almost 4 years. I'm Ethan, 35, software architect, too structured for my own good. We met when she was doing UX design at a startup. She was vibrant, artistic, and impulsive in a way that felt like oxygen after my methodical routines. She used to joke that I was a robot who needed a firmware update called fun. The thing about people like Maya is that they don't really change, they rebrand. For the first 2 years, I adored her creativity. She pushed me to travel, to paint, to loosen up. We hosted small dinner parties, built a modest life in our downtown apartment. But around year 3, she started speaking in slogans, like she was quoting a therapist she didn't quite understand. "Ethan, I think I'm outgrowing this version of us." "This version," she said, as if we were software builds. At first, I took it as a phase. She was diving into yoga, new age podcasts, journaling. I even bought her a new iPad so she could manifest with digital vision boards. She started waking up earlier, lighting incense, writing affirmations like, "I attract high vibration partners who challenge me to evolve." I joked that I hoped I still qualified. She didn't laugh. We started drifting, not through fights, but through indifference. She began calling my focus coldness. I called her mood swings creative. We both lied, politely. By winter, she was spending most weekends networking with people she met through a women's empowerment retreat. I'd see unfamiliar names on our Venmo history: brunches, co-working sessions, sound healing. When I asked once if she was happy, she said, "Happiness isn't linear. I'm transforming." I should have known that meant she was leaving. The text came on a Tuesday morning, while I was in a meeting with a client in Singapore. My phone buzzed twice, first her name, then the preview. "Maya, you're not my type anymore. I've evolved beyond you." There was a second bubble typing, then nothing. Just that. For a moment, I thought it was a joke. We'd argued mildly the night before about rent, specifically that I'd been paying it entirely for 6 months because she said bills kill creativity. So I replied exactly what came to mind. "Me. Congratulations." I didn't mean it as sarcasm. It was just final, like a closing tag in code, /relationship. She didn't respond. That evening, when I got home, her things were half gone. Not stolen, not packed, just removed. The closet looked like someone had peeled away half of a photograph. No shouting, no note, just silence. On the counter, her coffee cup still stood, centered. I stared at it for a long time. The handle was still warm. Later that night, I checked our joint account. She'd withdrawn $3,800. Enough for a few months of rent, maybe. She'd blocked me on Instagram within hours. Her new bio read, "Rebuilding, healing, ascending." It was almost funny if it hadn't been my life. I didn't chase her. I didn't text. I didn't call mutual friends. Instead, I went quiet. I kept paying for the apartment. Her name was still on the lease, and I didn't want legal drama. I buried myself in work, took a consulting project in Chicago, and by March, I'd signed a new contract that nearly doubled my income. That's when the difference between us became visible, not emotionally, but logistically. While she was evolving, I was restructuring. By April, I'd moved into a high-rise downtown. A clean slate, minimalist, soundproof, efficient. I didn't tell her, but I knew she'd find out. People like Maya always circle back when the new version of themselves runs out of battery. 2 months later, she texted again. Not to apologize, not even to ask how I was. "Maya, hey, random question. Do you still have that espresso machine?" Mine broke. I looked out at the skyline from my penthouse balcony, the same one I used to say we could never afford. And I realized her evolution had a very short half-life. There's a strange peace in realizing that someone leaving you doesn't mean you lost them. It just means you stopped being the audience they were performing for. For the first few weeks after her message, I treated Maya's absence like a problem to be debugged. Check logs, isolate variables, fix the bug. Only this wasn't software, it was entropy. Everything she'd built her new identity around started decaying the moment it left the stability I'd built for both of us. I didn't go looking for updates about her, but they found me anyway. Mutuals on LinkedIn, coworkers, even my accountant, small, disconnected signals. Hey, didn't your girlfriend used to do design for Halo Space? They're downsizing. She's freelancing now, right? I saw her name on Fiverr. A friend sent me her Instagram story with a laughing emoji. She was in some small studio apartment, hosting what she called healing evenings for conscious women. The caption said, "Leaving your comfort zone is the only way to grow. Don't settle for stability. Stability is stagnation." The irony was brutal. I was sitting on my penthouse balcony, sipping the same espresso she'd asked about, surrounded by the very stability she once told me was suffocating. 3 months later, the first real crack appeared, and it wasn't philosophical. It was financial. Apparently, she had overdrawn our old shared credit card. I'd left it active to keep her transition smooth, but she'd maxed it out on business coaching and branding retreats. The bank contacted me since my name was primary on the account. When I reached out to her, not angry, just factual, she responded with the kind of tone only someone cornered by their own choices could manage. "Maya, wow, you're really going to make this about money?" That's exactly the kind of energy I evolved away from. Me, the card's frozen. I'll pay it off. Please don't use it again. Maya, you're still trying to control me. Control. That word again. It's what people say when they realize they've lost it. About a week later, she texted again, this time less defiant, more lost. "Maya, hey, random Q. Do you still have that contact from your landlord? My lease renewal went up. Can't afford it RN." I read it 3 times before replying with a simple, "Me. Sorry, can't help with that." She didn't answer, but I saw her story that night. A blurry wine glass, captioned, "Some people only support your evolution when it benefits them." If only she knew how many times I'd supported her silently. Rent, groceries, utilities, while she was aligning her chakras. The first time she said she was evolving was right after she lost her job. She called me from the office parking lot, voice trembling but oddly calm. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe I'm meant to start something bigger. I spent the next 6 months covering rent and food while she explored her calling. She built a website offering creative energy coaching for women entrepreneurs. I paid for the domain. Her first client was her best friend. Her second was her mom. The third never paid. When I gently suggested she might take a part-time gig to stabilize things, she said, "You just don't understand what it means to trust the universe." Maybe not, but I understand balance sheets. From my balcony, I could see her old neighborhood. Same view, different altitude. I didn't block her on social media. I wanted to see how far the evolution would go. And I'll admit, part of it was curiosity. Another part, quiet justice. Her captions shifted from glowing and growing to rebuilding and resting. Then finally to learning. It was the slow regression of a person who mistook chaos for freedom. About 2 months in, she started posting more about energy vampires and toxic exes. No names, of course, but one post caught my eye. "Some people pretend to support your dreams until you outgrow them. But evolution can't be contained." Outgrow. That word used to sting. Now it just sounded like she was reciting a script she didn't believe anymore. Then came the call, the one I didn't expect. A Thursday night, 10:47 p.m. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but habit made me answer. It was Maya, crying. Not the soft cinematic kind, the raw, ugly kind. Her freelance clients had stopped paying. The rent had gone up again. Her roommate bailed mid-month. She didn't ask for help outright. She danced around it, talking about bad luck, energetic imbalances, and needing to reset. Then she said, almost in a whisper, "You were right about stability. I just thought I was better than this." For a long moment, I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to fix. Me. We both made choices. Maya, I thought you'd hate me. Me. I did. Then I didn't. Now I just wish you peace. Silence. Then she hung up. That night, I finally realized the part that hurt wasn't her leaving. It was that I'd mistaken her instability for depth. She didn't evolve. She escaped accountability dressed as enlightenment. I poured myself another espresso and looked out at the city. She once said I was obsessed with control. But control, I learned, isn't about others, it's about yourself. And for the first time in a long time, I felt in control again. Update 1. From my balcony, I could see her old neighborhood. Same view, different altitude. The streets we used to walk our dog on looked miniature from where I stood, like a model of our old life, stripped of noise and weight. I didn't block her on social media. I told myself it was for closure, but truthfully, I wanted to see how her evolution was holding up without a safety net. Her captions began to change tone, subtly at first. In January, they were all sunlight and self-affirmations. New energy, new era, new me. By March, it was healing takes time. April turned into sometimes growth means letting go. By May, the light had dimmed completely. Learning to forgive myself. It was like watching a stock you'd once invested in plummet slowly, predictably, while the CEO kept posting motivational quotes. A part of me felt cruel for observing. Another part felt justified. She had broadcast her ascension so publicly. The new friends, the bohemian apartment, the candlelit women's circles where she offered creative alignment coaching. Now, I was simply watching the same public stage as everyone else, but with insider knowledge. I knew what was behind the curtain. Unpaid bills, impulsive decisions, and avoidance dressed up as enlightenment. The old mutuals began to fade from her comment sections. Her likes dwindled. Even the women who once called her inspiring stopped reposting her. It was the digital version of walking away from a house that's quietly catching fire. Then came the first sign that her carefully curated life was starting to unravel: the credit card company. Apparently, the joint account I'd left active for emergencies had been used to pay for what the invoice described as brand activation seminars and energy consultancy courses. It was overdrawn by nearly 4 grand. The bank reached out to me since my name was on file. I didn't get angry. I just sent her a text. The joint card's over limit. Please stop using it. I'll close the account. Her reply came 10 minutes later. Wow, you really can't help controlling everything, can you? I thought you changed. I stared at the message. Same script, different act. She always framed accountability as oppression. I didn't respond. I just paid off the balance, closed the account, and sent her the receipt out of courtesy. No snark, no lecture, just proof that it was done. A week later, she messaged again. Hey, random question. Do you still have the contact for your old landlord? My lease renewal's crazy high. Need to find something cheaper. I didn't even need to think. Sorry, can't help. She left me on read. That night, she posted a blurry story, a half-empty wine glass, a sad indie song, and the caption, some people only support your growth when it benefits them. I laughed out loud, quietly. The truth was, I had supported her growth, materially, emotionally, logistically, right up until it meant dismantling my own stability. I'd covered rent when she wanted to follow her passion. I'd funded her coaching brand. I'd watched her chase the illusion of freedom, only to end up chained to the consequences she'd refused to plan for. Then, one night, she called. No text this time. Unknown number. 10:47 p.m. I almost ignored it, but habit made me pick up. Her voice was soft at first, then cracked. She didn't even say hello, just started talking in fragments. Clients not paying. Roommate moved out. Landlord threatening eviction. Something about bad timing and universal misalignment. I stayed quiet. She kept talking until her sentences started collapsing into sobs. Then she whispered, almost like she was confessing to a priest. You were right. About stability. About everything. I just thought I was better than this. I let the silence stretch. I could hear her breathing. Shaky, embarrassed, human. We both made choices, I said finally. I thought you'd hate me, she said. I did, I admitted. Then I didn't. Now I just want you to be okay. She started to say something else, but stopped. Then the line went dead. I put the phone down, went to the window, and looked out at the skyline. The city pulsed beneath me, steady and indifferent. It wasn't triumph I felt. It was distance. The kind that isn't cold, just clear. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't angry or sad or nostalgic. I was simply done. She had called it evolution. But evolution is survival through adaptation, not denial. And somewhere between her alignment and my silence, I'd adapted too. She'd grown tired of my stability. I'd grown tired of her chaos. And now, standing high above the life we used to share, I finally understood what peace actually feels like. Not something you meditate into existence, but something you quietly rebuild, brick by brick, once the noise is gone. Final update that it's been almost a year since that last call. Sometimes I think about how quiet endings really are. No explosions, no poetic closure, just small silences that stretch out until one day you realize you've stopped looking back. I didn't block Maya after that night. There was no reason to. She faded out of my orbit naturally, like static losing frequency. Her brand dissolved slowly. The coaching page disappeared first, then the wellness posts, then her personal account altogether. Mutual friends said she moved back to her hometown for a reset. I don't gloat, but I also don't pretend I wasn't curious. A few months ago, she sent one last message from a new number. It wasn't dramatic, just a single paragraph that read like an unfinished confession. I'm sorry for how I handled everything. I really thought I was growing, but I think I was just running. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. I stared at the message for a while before replying. Thank you. I hope you find what you're looking for. And that was it. No epilogue, no meeting for coffee as friends. Just two people who once loved each other in completely different languages and finally stopped trying to translate. The strange thing about getting everything you wanted, the apartment, the peace, the control, is that it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like clarity, like the noise has been turned down and you can finally hear yourself think again. There's no joy in watching someone unravel, but there's a brutal honesty in seeing what happens when illusion meets gravity. Her regression wasn't something I celebrated. It was something I studied. It reminded me how fragile people can be when they mistake self-expression for self-awareness. From the balcony, I still look down sometimes, not to check on her, but to remind myself of the distance. Same city, different altitude. I water the small plants she once called soulless. I cook for myself, quietly. My routines have become rituals again, steady, simple, clean. I met someone new recently. She's different, quieter, grounded. The kind of person who doesn't need to post proof of her happiness. I told her about Maya once, briefly. She didn't judge. She just said, "Sounds like you both needed to learn different lessons." Maybe she's right. If Maya ever stumbles across this, I don't want her to feel mocked or pitted. She wasn't a villain, just someone trying to outrun her own reflection. We all do that in some form. The difference is whether we stop running when we realize it's just us we're chasing. In the end, she was half right. She did evolve, just not in the direction she expected. And so did I. Because evolution isn't about climbing higher. It's about learning to stay still without falling apart.